Hello and welcome to Purely in Conversation, Later Life Lending from Pure Retirement with me, Jane Mullen.
Well, certainly the most memorable would be going to a business meeting in Newcastle via helicopter.
Just do it. It makes you stop and think about where you've come as either an individual or a business. It's pressing pause when you're writing that testimonial. It's quite a good exercise.
Hello and welcome to our guest speaker, Sara Robinson, Managing Director at Lease Associates, and Matt Taylor, Business Development Director from Equilaw. Both are ideal guests for us to have today because you are both working for companies who are recent award winners. So we will come on to that shortly. Very excited about that. Thank you both so much for coming. I hope you both had good journeys in this morning.
Yes, thank you.
Good. Far to come?
I've come down from the northwest, so down Preston.
I've trekked over from the southwest, so nice little drive this morning, nice and sunny. So
yeah, thank goodness that the weather's behaved for us, absolutely. But thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you. Sarah, I'd like to start with you if that's okay. So, Managing Director of Lease Associates, tell me a bit more about your history and what has brought you here as the MD of Lease Associates today.
Well, how long have we got this morning? 17 years in the industry, but kind of fell into it. It wasn't sort of anything in a career plan. My background initially was in marketing. I'd worked for a FTSE 250 employment law company, and prior to that a division of Skipton Building Society, and it was always in marketing. And I went for a job at the then number one in the country equity release broker. They were recruiting for a marketing manager. I didn't get the job, but something I said must have sort of lit fire in them. I'd got a background in doing seminars up and down the country when I was at Skipton, and they asked me to come on board running a team doing seminars nationwide. I was there for 5.5 years and then moved across to the Age Partnership Group. They'd got a brilliant telephone-based proposition but didn't have a field sales force. And at that time they were number 2 in the market and wanted to be number 1. So I went over and set up the field sales team, which was 11 years ago. And then, about 6 months before the dreaded the pandemic started, the business sort of looked at what they were doing and said, we've got a great proposition, we've got a great field sales team, but there's potentially people out there in the market that like what we bring to the table in terms of tech, exclusive offers, the people that we work with, the lenders, the solicitors, but they don't want to work for us. Maybe we want to look at having a self-employed arm. And that was really the germination of Lease Associates, and we were in the planning stages and just about to come to market. In fact, they were waiting for me to get back off holiday, and as I came back at the weekend on the Monday or Tuesday, Boris Johnson went on the television and said nobody's going anywhere. And we shelved it. And then after a couple of months we thought actually we're wrong. Probably now more than ever, those sole traders, those self-employed, perhaps need our support. So we came to the market in a bit of a hurry. I'll be honest, we didn't have all our ducks in a row. We were a little bit rough around the edges. But yeah, July the 4th or 5th, I can never remember, 2020, we were born, so nearly 5 years ago now.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And you mentioned the kind of field-based support and being out there, and I saw a LinkedIn post that you did last week, actually. You were seeing some of the advisors, not too far from me, down in kind of Poole, Bournemouth way.
Oh, right, okay, I didn't know you were down there.
Yeah, not too far. So how important is that face-to-face for you? I mean, tell me a bit more about that.
For me, it's really important. When I was National Sales Manager for Age Partnership, my esteemed colleagues used to tease me a lot that I spent more time in my car than at my desk. But I've always thought I've never been an advisor, but I always think it can be quite a lonely job. You spend a lot of time on your own, maybe at your desk, maybe in the car, and that's in the good times. And they've certainly not had the good times over the last few years. So I've always been out, spent a lot of time with my team, got to know them, got to know the name of the dog. You know, when you spend time with them, that's when they start to open up, and all of a sudden you find perhaps why their performance has gone down a little bit. You understand a bit more of the background. As a business, Equity Lease Associates twice a year send out a survey to all our advisors, because at the end of the day, we kind of technically work for them. We're a support function to them and their business. So we like to get our report card. And we did one last June, we did one just before Christmas, and there was just a couple of things that were put in the comments that I thought, yeah, I thought we were doing okay on that, maybe we could do better. And I thought, right, I'm going to set myself the task of before the end of Feb, go out, meet all of them, and just spend a bit of time with them, find out where their head's at, what their aspirations are for 2025. So yeah, I'm too short, I will be honest. I know we've gone past the end of Feb, but yeah, I'm a couple short, so do those soon. So close.
No, well, that sounds brilliant, and I completely agree. I think the face-to-face side of it is so important and imperative, and it sounds like it's gone really well. 2 more to go.
2 more to go, yes. Yeah, I'm not going over to Ireland, but my guy over there will forgive me for that one. But yeah, I've still got 2 to do.
Oh, sure. Oh, no, that sounds fantastic. And Matt, just thinking about yourself, so Business Development Director at Equilaw, what brought you into the profession 16 years ago?
Yeah, I suppose my journey is a little bit more straightforward. I exclusively worked within the regulated sales environment, advising on mortgages and pensions and investments, and probably had a reasonably negative view of equity release at that point. You know, the only real bits of information I picked up were the limited sort of bits of information in textbooks and the things you need to do to get your sort of regulated exams. So probably a typical kind of Daily Mail view of maybe the industry 10, 15 years ago. But after doing a bit more digging, looking at, you know, how robust the market is and the industry, the opportunity came up at Equilaw, and I haven't really looked back since. So I've been at Equilaw nearly 10 years. Seen a lot of change to the market, a lot of change to the way clients interact with us and their expectations. A lot of changes to complexity of cases, and I think that's probably going to be something that we'll see, you know, manifest itself over the next few years. So, yeah, a regulated background, didn't have a great view of equity release, and now my world's changed, and, you know, I think it's one of the best products out there.
Oh, that's brilliant. I think it certainly has come a long way in the last few years, absolutely. And you travel a lot as well, of course, don't you? Fairly similar to Sarah, you're out and about.
Yeah, so introducer-wise, we work with introducers all across England and Wales. Head offices tend to be in the north, so we do spend a lot of time up and down the M1 and the M6 to Leeds and Preston, amongst other places. I think probably since COVID, there's more of a move to doing as much as we can do remotely. So we do spend probably more time in the office than we've ever done. But I still think there's massive value in meeting people face to face, particularly new entrants to the market. It helps really build those key relationships, you know, which we develop and thrive on going forward. So yeah, plenty of travel, but not quite as much as maybe we did 5 years ago.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned introducers as well and the importance of that. So what tips would you give to introducers who are looking to enter the lifetime mortgage market?
Yeah, I think my advice would be, particularly if you haven't advised on later life products, or, you know, you're relatively new to that world, really surround yourself with as many key stakeholders as you can do, particularly from a lender point of view. You know, there's some great BDMs out there. Arguably, later life BDMs are probably the most useful you'll have in your career if you're advising on mortgage products. You know, so really get out, make sure you know the key people you're going to need to talk to at each lender. They'll be very, very useful for you in terms of getting cases placed, getting cases moved through to completion when you get to legal stage. Surround yourself with really good support around your sourcing. So there's plenty of good sourcing products in the market. You know, spend some time looking at, you know, who you can go and talk to, and get some training and support, particularly when you first start. And ultimately find yourself a really good solicitor as well. So you're going to need a client solicitor, you're going to need one that you can pick the phone up to, discuss tricky cases, get these fiddly things sort of through, and ideally, a great client experience. So really do take some time to try and get those foundations sorted when you first start.
There's a lot of resources out there, and like we said, I think that all loops back to how the market has come such a long way, how it's developed. The amount of support now is just incredible. And speaking of support, Sarah, as well, so of course Equilaw Lease Associates won the award for Best Later Life Advisor at the British Later Life Lending Awards recently. So how did that feel?
Completely and utterly shocked. The other two finalists in the category, when I went up for the award and came back, the gentleman I was sat next to said, "You were just so shocked." And I'm not being falsely modest or humble or anything. It really was a genuine shock. We're certainly the new kid on the block compared to the other two finalists who, have done so much. They're longer established. One of them has, won the Equity Release Award many times. So yes, it was really, I was thrilled to bits and couldn't wait to kind of let everybody involved know. But yeah, really, really shocked. Still don't think it's sunk in, actually. It genuinely, honestly, was such a surprise. But I was really pleased for those advisors that took a punt really on a startup business, in the middle of a global pandemic. I've said for the last 5 years, they were either the bravest or the most foolish people to go joining us when the world was turned upside down. Yes, we're part of a larger group, we're part of the age group, so we had that backing, but even so, we were still a startup, and to take a punt on us, they were just incredible, and they're still with us, more importantly. So, as I said during the interview process for the award, if I went up on stage, I was doing it for them. It certainly wasn't for me. I was just the one that got my photograph taken and sort of represented them. They're the ones that have really won the award.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the interview process as well. So what kind of advice would you give to people that actually want to put themselves forward for an award?
Just do it. It makes you stop and think about where you've come as either an individual or a business. It's pressing pause when you're writing that testimonial. It's quite a good exercise. Yes, it can be a little bit scary when you're being interviewed by a panel of individuals. I'm not going to say here and lie. It's probably one of the scariest things I've done. But yeah, just do it. Just have a go. What have you got to lose? And as I said, you never know. You never know on the night when they call your name or your business's name. It's a real thrill.
No, it sounds like it, and to be completely shocked just adds to it as well.
Absolutely, and I genuinely was. As I said, no false modesty. I was genuinely surprised. I was certainly expecting somebody else's name to be called out.
Well, congratulations. It's a huge achievement, so absolutely well done. And Matt, speaking of awards, so of course Equilaw also won Best Legal Firm at the British Later Life Lending Awards as well. So what goes into winning an award like this, do you think, from your experience?
It probably sounds a little bit corny, but it's it is a proper team game. As Sarah was talking about, in terms of taking stock to write your submission and really look back on the year, because it does go by so fast, and you perhaps forget things that happened, or new sort of process bits that have been brought in to make things better. Can be overlooked. So, for us, we've spent a lot of time really trying to empower all the staff members to make the right decisions themselves, rather than to have to come to management and get that signed off. And if they think it's a good idea and it'll work well, let's run with it and see what happens. So I think what goes into winning an award, ultimately you probably need the correct sort of business mindset at the outset. Our goal is to deliver the best client outcome and client journey we can do, and then all the other bits sort of wrap around that. So the support and spend we've had on IT and the introduction of AI into how we do things, recruitment of new staff and retention, the ESG side of things, you know, really a whole sort of 360 kind of focus. But as Sarah was saying, it's a great way of taking stock of the year and getting down on paper, perhaps with limited word count as well, exactly, you know, what you've delivered that year and what the benefits have been to our introducers, our business partners and clients.
I think sometimes it's good to pause, isn't it? And when you do have the chance to look back and recap and you think, actually, that was phenomenal, you know, what you achieved and the outcomes, and to then carry on and to actually win an award like that, it's just, yeah, it's brilliant. It's such a great achievement.
I think we spend so much of our time in the moment, sort of day to day, that having that gift almost, as you said, of pressing pause, taking stock and looking at what you've done, we don't often get that opportunity.
And particularly, you know, looking back on previous years, probably the numbers and ultimate figures aren't going to be where they have been previously, but that doesn't mean you haven't had a really successful and good year in other areas. So sort of, like I say, taking stock to reflect on that, I think is really, really important. And it's a great marketing tool. And as Sarah said earlier, you don't know what doors that's going to open in terms of a client or a business partner sort of picking up on the fact that you did win that award and you are best in class.
Yeah, no, it really is great. And thinking about the interview process as well. So Sarah did mention this slightly, but for you, Matt, what are your tips on the interview process? What can you share on that aspect of things?
So depending, I guess, on exactly which award you're going for and what the interview process looks like, there's probably going to be some kind of formal submission document first. My advice around that would be involve as many people as you can do within the business. They might have a slightly different way of wording something, or remind you of a great piece of work that went on earlier on in the year. So definitely involve as many people as you can. In terms of the actual interview, if it's a panel kind of situation and you're being interviewed by some of your industry peers, try not to sort of worry too much about, you know, who they are and what their standing is in the industry. You know, ultimately they're there to judge your submission. So try and go into it sort of confident in that you know what you want to say and what you want to deliver, and hopefully it all goes well on the day.
It sounds like you've mentioned a couple of times it's very much a team effort, and that's great. You know, different departments, different people giving their input, different highlights, and all coming together, you know, for the submission and ultimately the interview as well. So yeah, that sounds really great. You've both had fantastic careers, and thank you so much for sharing, you know, how you got to where you are today. It's been really insightful. And what I'd like to ask you both is actually what's been the most memorable part of your career to date. So it might be more than one, to be fair. So you can have more than one. But if you could just think about your most memorable moments and why, I'd love to hear about them. So Sarah, if we could start with you, if that's okay.
I've been asked this question before, and my response a few years ago was, I once made a corporate video with Valerie Singleton. So for people of my generation, Valerie Singleton from Blue Peter was a big deal at the time. I think of late, it's certainly being involved in a business that's allowed me to grow as an individual. I never thought I'd be managing director or director or anything, you know. Certainly when I left school, my mother kindly remarked that I was probably only good enough to work in Woolworths. And I've been thinking about this for quite a while now, whether that was said on purpose to kind of spur me on. Maybe I think with hindsight, she possibly did me a favour in saying that, because it's certainly sort of been a driver. I'm quite stubborn, and I think I maybe sort of took it as a, right, I'll show you. It's really difficult to pick one. But if I have to, my career highlight really is just in this industry. I've just been incredibly fortunate to work with an amazing group of individuals. The advisors in the companies that, well, the one that I'm lucky enough to run, the one that I headed up before when I built the field sales team, they're just amazing guys and girls, and they're the people that I get out of bed for every morning. Just to try and support them to be the best that they can be. And that's really the career highlight for me. It comes down to the people, and the people in this industry, you know, whether it be as well as the advisors, the lenders, the solicitors. I think we're so fortunate to work in this industry, and I don't mean to sound cliched, I genuinely mean that. You know, we are quite a small industry, you know, everybody knows everybody else. That's really special when you think about it. You know, you wouldn't get that in necessarily other industries. I think that's what makes it special.
It sounds like you do give an incredible amount of support, and the fact that you can tell you're just so passionate about the face-to-face side of things, and you know, you gave yourself a goal, as was discussed at the beginning, you know, to see all of the advisors before February, the end of February, which you have bar two. So yeah, I think that comment from your mum.
Yeah, maybe I owe her one. Yes.
Thanks, Mum. Definitely. Oh, thank you. That's lovely. And Matt, the same for you. Memorable moments of your career to date?
Well, certainly the most memorable would be going to a business meeting in Newcastle via helicopter.
Oh, wow.
For the record, it was cheaper than getting the train there, but yeah, we did get a chopper up to Newcastle, and the pilot let us have a little fly of the helicopter while we were en route. So that was certainly a day to remember. Probably more through fear than anything else. Sort of a more up-to-date kind of memorable moment would probably be just seeing how the industry has adapted since really 2020, when we went into lockdown and through the pandemic. You know, 2019, market was booming, you know, business was reasonably easy to be done. And since then we've had to move to remote working and all the challenges and problems that entailed, particularly at a solicitor level, when we needed to keep our mobile solicitors out on the road to do the home visits. You know, we've got some great stories of some of our agent solicitors going to get shopping for older clients who couldn't get out and wanted to, you know, stay at home and self-isolate. Then the market decided to sort of slow down a little bit, moved into a higher rate environment, and all the problems that entailed over the last couple of years. So I think there's some green shoots that we're sort of moving towards a more stable sort of market. But all through that time, we've still managed to deliver these outcomes for clients who need to access, you know, wealth from their property, which I just don't think you get in any other industry.
Agreed. And I think it sounds, you know, with the industry being resilient, you're clearly adaptable, and just moving with the times and how things are changing, and just working with what things are like at the time. No, that's great. The helicopter, I think out of fear for me, it would have been the same. But it sounds like fun though. I
wasn't too bad in terms of the flying element. One of the other passengers was terrible. I won't name him today, but he knows who he is.
Okay, well, I'm sure he'll be listening at some point. So yeah, he'll know exactly who he is. No, thank you for that. And I do have a final question for both of you as well. And the question is, and Matt, I'll start with you this time, if that's okay. If you were to take your younger self out for a coffee, what advice or what tips would you give to yourself as a younger Matt Taylor, knowing where you are today?
Yeah, this is popular on social media, isn't it?
Yeah, I did steal it.
Would you tell your younger self over a coffee? Probably to do what makes you happy. I think, you know, you can spend a lot of time doing things that don't make you happy. So when you've got the opportunity to, you know, really maximise that, and don't sweat the small stuff.
And what are the kind of things that make you happy?
Well, I'd like to say, you know, learning new languages and cooking, you know, foreign cuisine and reading lots of books. But no, for me, it's family. I've got a little 3-year-old boy, so enjoy spending as much time with him as possible. I probably should mention my wife as well, otherwise she'll be listening to this and will tell me off. So yeah, enjoying home life, watching him grow up and develop, and watching as much sport as possible, which it's always a good way to relax after a hard week at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, well done for mentioning your wife as well. I'm sure she'll appreciate that. You won't get a hard time for that. So I'd love to ask the same question to you. What would you say? What would your reassurances be? Any tips?
What would I say to myself? Just be open to any opportunities that come your way. Try not to let fear of failure put you off, because even if you fail, you'll learn something from it. I never imagined my career going the way that it has done. So yeah, just try anything. Be curious, and keep learning. One of my early jobs was as a secretary for a working man's club. It was my job to go to the court and get the bar extension, and then pay the stripper on the gentleman's nights. Now, to go from that through working for a tyre and exhaust depot to now being managing director of a financial services company, talk about, a very convoluted path. But everything that I've done, there's always been some takeaway. And yeah, it's been fun. Just enjoy it. Even on the hardest days, you'll find something that'll give you a little bit of joy or put a smile on your face.
It sounds incredibly inspirational, and I think particularly to a lot of women as well. I think to kind of look at where you are today and look at your background and not necessarily thinking you'd be where you are, but look at the journey you've had, the fun that you've had, and you can clearly see that you enjoy it.
Yes, I don't think you can, I've got quite a few years under my belt. I don't think you can sort of keep going if you're not getting some enjoyment out of it. As I said, even on the darkest days, be honest, yesterday wasn't a great day. Yesterday was a day when I went downstairs. My husband's retired, and I said to him, do I really still want to be doing this? And he went, yes, of course you do. Go back up to your office. It's other people that sometimes need to give you a gentle push. But yes, it's, as I said, it comes back to really the group of individuals that I'm lucky enough to work with and be associated with. As I said, they're the people that get me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, it's one thing for you to support other people, but to have that support for yourself as well, even if it is your husband telling you to get back upstairs to your office, it's needed.
He's retired. He needs me to keep him in a lifestyle which he's now becoming accustomed to very quickly.
Yeah, no, that sounds brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, thank you both so much for your time today. It's been so great to talk to you. It's been really inspiring, and you've given us so much good content for us and for our listeners as well. So yeah, thank you both so much. Thank you for making the journey down, and we'll speak to you soon.